We're live.
Okay. Senate Education Committee, 2:15 on May 22nd. We're back after a short break. We're actually now having had the introduction to the proposed amendment of the House version of the House version of 454. We are doing a walkthrough with legislative council St. James and
Thank you, Beth St. James, Office of Legislative Counsel. I am here for whatever you need me for, but you all just received an extremely thorough introduction that was essentially a walkthrough. And I know our time is limited. So are there particular parts of the bill or sections that you would like to walk through, or what would you like?
Man, yes, you know the major differences between,
Yes, sir, I wrote this. I do know the major differences.
so that's what I would like to do.
Can I ask you in a different way? Has there been any kind of like as passed by the House versus Senate version versus today's version side by side? That kind of at least give us not like line by line, but at least like.
Are we in a Marvel movie? Is there a new one that I'm not aware
No,
of?
we're in-
No, sir. No, there has not been time for that.
So one of the things that I want to understand are which pieces of this, and I know I can probably figure it out by looking at the effective dates, but which pieces of this go into effect. There's sort of a lot of from the presenter bill, heard a lot about how much of this is 4 years out or on rolls over time. So I'm trying to get my arms around the timeline, and I'll give you an example as somebody who, has a lot of independent schools in my district. I'm thinking about under the construct that we voted out of here, independent schools had given up their ability to set tuition in exchange for getting comfortable with the fact that the money would follow the student to them. Under this construct, and then this isn't your area, but I fear that with the weights that will be implemented 4 years from now, they don't have a high school weight, and yet we know this. I know this is not really you. Just do those portions of this go into effect now?
What I don't
Well,
know
I know.
which portion.
I'm mixing the
Yes.
finance and the. Does the ability of independent schools to set tuition go away with the passage of this bill?
No, that's tied to, just as it was in the House and in the Senate version, that's tied to the effective date of the foundation formula.
And does this, so I think I heard from the sponsor that this bill would not allow there to continue to be SUs.
No, all this bill does for school districts is create a task force. It asks the task force for school district boundaries. The task force language in Senator Hardy's amendment says nothing about supervisory unions. It doesn't say they can't exist in the future, and it doesn't say they must exist in the future. You all next year will be required, or you're not required to do anything because you can't bind your hands next year. The theory behind both the House version and the Senate version and what Senator Hardy has put forward is that you all would come back next year and work on school district boundaries. Whatever you guys decide next year, whether that is keeping supervisory unions, modifying supervisory unions, or getting rid of supervisory unions, remains to be seen. But the task force in Senator Hardy's draft does not mention supervisory unions. It just talks about school district boundaries.
what happens under this bill as amendment.
Should be on page 1819.
I'm not sure I'm asking just a serious, so I'm not sure what they all are, but we spent a lot of time, thinking through the students being able to go cross border. Is that what happens to that?
That is not let me find the right section here. So section 18, Senator Hardy's amendment starts on page 47. This is the amendment to section 828, Title 16, tuition to approved schools. And this is the House language, with the exception of instead of 51% of publicly tuitioned students, it's 40%. But the House language and Senator Hardy's amendment do not allow for tuition to flow to an approved independent school located out of state. Unless it's a therapeutic school.
Okay. And can they, well, yeah, that's my next question. They at all, like, could they go to public schools?
Yes.
Just not independent, okay?
Didn't we talk at some point that there's some existing like hearing board that will hear a concern that you can't get the education you need in state and you have to go out of state?
I think that might be for therapeutic school, but I think what you might be thinking about is the fact that a superintendent, you can ask your superintendent for permission to go to a school, like public school within your district, I think.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe across the street lines, I'm not sure. But,
Sure.
yes,
May I ask that question that I asked Ruth on 454? If passed, could it open up to lawsuits from secular private schools who would be excluded from town tuition because they're currently not receiving public funds for 25% of their students? And if you're up in like Canning and it's going to a public school, it's got like 15%. Will they now be excluded under this?
You're saying secular schools?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, private school.
Anything you do, you're opening yourself up for litigation. I think that's my answer. Whether it's you make the rabbit the state animal or
Thank you.
you make apples the state fruit. I mean, literally anything you do, you're opening yourselves up to litigation, which is by being a breathing human being in the United States of America.
Yeah.
and
make it up.
oh, go ahead.
If I can just follow up on that, is there anything in this bill that exclusively targets religious schools in terms of whether or not they can receive public funding?
My understanding of the way this bill is written is that it would apply generally to all approved independent schools.
Thank you.
So there's nothing in here with the, we had the plan B. There was no map.
Correct.
Plan B, right?
No. But
We are
Nothing stopping you
We're always
from
the
plan
plan
B
B
next year, right? Yeah, yeah.
G.
But you're correct. The task force is not required to come up with a plan B. Yes.
I will say this has nothing to do with the amendment. I just always felt like that was kind of an impossible task and should be left up to us as legislators anyway, that we figure out what plan B is. We know that Act 46, it would likely be what happened in Act 46, which is we gave the mandate to the local communities to sort it out.
Yeah, that's really what plan B was.
Right, it's
It's
not ideal, but we could do that regardless of
Yeah,
whether or
this
not
was
we
just,
vote down.
this was just to get a jump on it and have the thing organized and brought through incentives and everything. That was the plan with the task force, was to have plan B ready rather than get it to here quickly rather than.
I just think that's a huge additional charge in addition to making the maps for whoever is gonna be on it.
That's why we did it that way. I just wanted to find out if we had that. Any other questions?
Is there a particular section you'd like to walk through? I mean, I'm happy to do a walkthrough. I just,
know you are. I know you are. There's a lot of us that, that we probably are all sitting here agreeing or disagreeing with things, but I think I understand the places where I do with them. So, trying to make sure that I'm asking. But there's nothing in the language about the mapping task force to suggest, is there anything to suggest they should think about the kind of governance structure that's necessary, or mapping or / governance structure that's necessary for areas of the state like Essex County and Southwest Vermont, wherever they're very dependent on the tuition program? Is there anything that references it?
well, let's look at that language.
Where was that? Where was that?
I'm finding it myself. Okay, so section 3, the school redistricting task force, really begins in earnest on page 17. Let's see, membership. Okay, so starting on page 18 is the powers and duties. So they have to propose not fewer than 3 school district boundaries. Let's see. I would say the language related to tuition appears on page 18, line 19. Each new proposed school district shall be designed to maximize student access to public schools in all regions of the state and reduce reliance on tuitioning students to independent schools with opportunities for modern regional middle and high schools.
Can I ask, was that in the original 454?
No, this
Okay.
language is proposed by Senator Hardy. So this language,
okay.
this section 3 was not in the House version.
Okay. They did have a redistricting task force.
Correct. They had a subcommittee of the Commission on the Future of Public Education.
They had some,
Oh, right, and the governor's proposal just had 5 districts. Correct. I was wondering what it started with.
Oh, yes.
But, sorry,
I
I
introduced, yes. Yes.
this because H 454 was the original bill introduced by Representative Tooth
Correct.
with the governor's language. So
Correct.
I don't think I have any more questions than somebody else does. Does it? Well, I think we'll make sure we're not missing an opportunity. Asking you questions that I should. I think I understand. Changes made here, although I agree, this is not for you, nothing with that, but I also agree with Senator Williams that we haven't looked at the House version so long, there's probably things in there. But
well, you'd be going into conference with the House version, so we don't have to get back up to speed by tomorrow anyway.
if we have it.
We passed it all, so don't know that
So I think,
one call.
I think I'm good. Unless anybody else has something. Yes.
I have a question. It's not for, the St. James, but what's the process now? So we've got a new bill in front of us. It's come back into committee, or maybe it hasn't come back into committee. I'm not quite sure. Does it need to be voted? Then it hits, what happens next?
I think what's going to happen is that this amendment is going to be on the floor today.
Okay, so this amendment as briefed by Senator Hood.
Yeah, the amendment is going to be on the floor.
And if that amendment doesn't pass,
Then we're back to the original House bill.
then
The
that
House
would
bill has passed. Then we would vote on that theoretically.
Okay.
And other people can introduce amendments today and tomorrow.
I'm working on amendments. And others are. So, which is what I need to do now.
So
Uh.
then both committees of jurisdiction would get back together to review any of those amendments, correct?
Yes,
I mean, that's why I don't think, I don't want to belabor this either, if you need to go draft amendments. I don't know what people are trying to do before 4, so.
That's what I can work then. So,
Do you want to meet here before 4?
yes, I'd like to walk through, although I may or may not introduce it today, there's other things I do. So we'll, I'll just text you with me.
Okay,
Either people could come back in here at 3:30 and see if there's anybody here.
So there's likely to be a caucus for the minority party prior to floor, somewhere in that 3:30 thing.
that's helpful to know, just so we are coordinated, so we're not trying to get into committee.
So the actual time hasn't been called, but
Yeah.
we're just like notified to be sensitive to that.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out if we're gonna come.
So unless anybody else has anything, we'll break and just kind of look up it. Well, I don't know how to do this. I'll text you. We'll be in touch if we're going to try to get back together before 4.
Do you want to take a vote on the amendment before 4?
No, I don't think. I mean,
Okay, so you don't want a straw poll from the committee on the amendment? Fine.
yeah,
I don't think it would make a difference.
Problem. I mean, so I would just say, if it was a tie vote, it would be no recommendation. So if people don't want to take that vote and you'd rather focus on your amendments, I understand too.
There's a draft